All right, that sound means we're on. So, Tara, thanks so much for chatting with me again. These videos have been like super duper helpful, particularly like the I didn't tell you this before and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but the one on alcohol was like one of my most people really like that one. So people are super duper interested in these like, soundbite things. And so today we're talking about electrolyte supplementation. If you listen to any healthcare podcast these days, like Huberman podcasts or any of those, Peter Attia's, Element is a big one that's being that's a sponsor right now, and a lot of healthcare influencers are talking about electrolyte supplementation. I'm a marathon runner, so it's common to see some kind of electrolyte drink being offered in those instances when you're doing like these severe athletic events. That's
Yeah.
kind of always been like a known thing. And this,
I'm gonna hold on. I have to cut you off. I
uh,
didn't know that
yeah.
you were a marathoner too.
Yes, I have done. I'm more of a half marathoner. I've done. There was like a period of time where I did a half marathon. Like I did a 13.2 mile run,
Hmm.
where like once or twice a week for 2 or 3 years.
That's
And then
awesome.
I've done one full marathon and then several, like I do the San Francisco half with a whole bunch of clients and such. So,
Yeah, I
but
love
even
that.
in those things, like, I don't know, I just don't like, I think electrolyte drinks taste gross. So it's like, I'd rather just have water and it kind of make me feel a little bit sick. Um,
Hmm.
but I've had colleagues like in the medical, like doctors ask me, like not like MDs, but doctors of movement ask me my thoughts on this. I've had clients ask me thoughts of this, and I've had multiple people tell me they started taking things like Element, these electrolyte drinks that they're hearing about, and I've like some of people tell me that makes them feel good. They're like, oh, I like it. And I largely have thought it's maybe even placebo. And then I'm like, I don't know. Me not being a registered dietitian, so that's why I brought you in. Like, my gut has always said like most people don't need them, but it probably won't hurt them. The worst it could be like a waste of your money, right? Kind of like amino acids used to be thought of in like muscle building is like you really need these things, and then largely people have thought, well, you can take them, they're probably not going to hurt you, that they're probably a waste of money.
Hmm.
And then we were chatting via email, and I've learned I'm gonna let you talk now, like, so let's talk a little bit about like this rise in electrolyte supplementation, and sort of what your thoughts are on who would benefit from it and who might need to be more weary of it. Or so I'll let you talk now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all good stuff there. I think that right now, especially in the Bay Area, but beyond definitely too, there's just everyone's trying to optimize their health, and we're always looking for different ways to do it. And so all of these different supplements that we're getting advertised, whether that's like a greens powder or like whatever else, or if it's an electrolyte drink or something, people are just grasping at things, trying to optimize and feel their best and do what they think is best for their bodies. And I think that's great. But it's also important to know what these things are and in what context should we maybe be using them, or are they even something that you need? Like, could you just save your money and be totally fine drinking water based on your activity level and your own biology? Um, so I did kind of want to talk a little bit about what electrolytes are, because technically, like, this is biochemistry that we're talking about here. And I'm not going to, definitely not going to get too nerdy with it, but when we think about electrolytes are basically minerals that have an electrical charge. So that's where the electro part comes from in electrolytes. And they have several different functions in our bodies, and we actually get them, most of them, just through our diet. So they balance our fluids, which is why they play such an important role in hydration. They balance pH, so like the acid base component of like your blood and your bodily fluids and stuff like that. They support your muscles and nerves, which is where the exercise performance piece comes into play. So if you think about like if you are running a marathon and you're experiencing a lot of cramping, a lot of times that is a hydration issue, and it might mean that you need electrolytes and or fluids. So it also plays a role in your heart functioning. Like there's so many different things that these electrolytes do. And when we talk about electrolytes and what minerals they are, there's actually a lot. I think most of us think of like sodium and potassium as kind of being
Mhm.
the major ones, but it's sodium, it's chloride, potassium, bicarbonate, which if you are into like the performance nutrition world, but bicarbonate is kind of like trending right now.
Okay.
Um, Calcium and magnesium, those are like the main electrolytes. So there's your like electrolyte 101
Okay.
information. But generally speaking, when we are exercising and we get sweaty, we are losing electrolytes through our sweat. Very normal human process, not a problem at all. Some people sweat more than others. Some people have saltier sweat than others. So if you're curious, if you're a salty sweater, oftentimes you can tell by, you'll find like streaks of white on your clothes after you've
I
worked
was
out really
literally
hard.
just thinking like
Yeah, yeah, like for me after runs, like if I touch my face, it feels like I have sand on my face. Those are
I must be
electrolytes.
gross. I would literally just lick if I was curious.
Well, you can get them back if you do
Yeah,
that,
there we
right? It's
go.
like
Yeah.
your own little electrolyte supplement.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, so like you some people lose electrolytes more rapidly than others. Like everyone, it's very individual, and there's a lot of different things that impact like how much electrolytes you're losing when you are exercising, or even when you're not. Like if you're in Florida and it's like the hottest time of the year and it's super humid and insanely hot, like you're probably losing some electrolytes through your sweat just in existing, right? Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be taking an electrolyte supplement. And there's kind of a magic number when it comes to knowing whether or not you should consider taking an electrolyte supplement, and that is 60 minutes. So it's actually similar with most like sports nutrition related stuff. That magic
mhm.
number is usually 60 minutes. So if you are exercising consistently at a moderate to high intensity for 60 minutes or longer, you may need to consider replacing some electrolytes. However, most
Like
people,
your shirt should be gross.
yeah, like,
We're not like if I go on a run and it in Florida, north, right, for like 40 to 60 minutes, that's the case. If I go on a walk in San Francisco when it's like 50
no,
degrees,
no.
or when I lift weights, like I don't sweat. If I'm doing like a hypertrophy style workout where I lift heavy weights and then I sit on my butt for 2 minutes or like do some stretching or whatever, like I don't sweat much, like
Yeah,
if at all, right?
yep. Yeah, in that case, extremely unlikely that you are going to need electrolyte supplement. Like that's an intermittent workout. You're taking breaks. You're not going nonstop the whole time. Like, you know how some people after they've done a workout, they look like they literally jumped out of a swimming pool, like their shirt is
Yeah,
soaked.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that person needs electrolytes probably. So yeah, if you're doing like a Pilates class or yoga or something, like no, you're not going to need an electrolyte supplement for that. Water, just drink water. Um, but if you are going really hard for 60 minutes or more, maybe you're in the heat or something like that, there's a chance you could need to take an electrolyte supplement. Is it going to hurt you if you didn't get quite that sweaty and you used an electrolyte supplement? Generally, probably not. But we do want to be mindful of how much electrolytes we're consuming, and certain populations are at a higher risk when they are maybe consuming too many electrolytes. So, a couple things to think about here. One is just your natural sodium intake in general. Which is an electrolyte, most Americans consume too much salt. We know that. That's like a fact. There's so much salt in the foods that we're consuming, especially if you're eating out at restaurants or if you're eating processed foods. You're probably far exceeding the daily amount of salt that you should be eating, which is about 2,300 milligrams a day. That's kind of like the general guide.
Mhm.
Sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower, but 2,300 is a really good
That's
general recommendation.
that's hard to stay under unless you're
Yeah.
cooking all of your own food. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to do. So 2,300 is kind of the lower end. 3,500 is kind of like the recommendation for people that don't have any high blood pressure problems or anything like that. but even 3,500 is pretty challenging for most
Yeah.
people.
Oh yeah.
So if you're concerned, like, oh, maybe I'm not getting enough electrolytes, the chance is you probably are. You're probably getting plenty of electrolytes in your diet naturally. So for most exercisers, unless you are doing things that are a little bit more intense, like running marathons, you probably do not need an electrolyte supplement. The people that need to be extra cautious with this are people who do have high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, A, chances are you're getting enough sodium in your diet, if not excessive sodium in your diet. And B, if you're consuming an electrolyte supplement on top of already getting excessive sodium in your diet, this could be increasing your blood pressure even more. And so you might be thinking you're doing something good for your body. Maybe you do an exercise, you do a workout or something, and then you take your electrolytes, when in fact you're elevating your blood pressure even further. You're tipping your sodium intake way beyond what your daily consumption should be. And now we're in a position where this is actually something you really should be cautious about and maybe not taking. Pregnant women and people with kidney disease also need to be especially cautious when it comes to taking electrolyte supplements. And those are kind of the main populations that need to be extra careful.
Or
For the
even,
rest of us,
like if you get now with a lot of the metabolic testing, what you often do like once a year. So like I know like not only do they look at like cholesterol, there's so many like sub levels now. And now there's liver enzymes and there's like kidney enzymes that get looked at. So if you know you have like, I definitely heard you say kidney. And what about like liver enzymes? If you're that type of person who's like liver, I forget what it's called, but it's like slightly elevated, is that kind of similar as well? Like,
so in the literature that I've looked at, it's mostly kidney stuff that you need to worry
got it.
about when
Okay.
it comes to electrolyte balance, not so much the liver enzymes, which I think
Okay.
you're looking for AST and ALT. Those are the two ones
Yeah.
that they
Yes.
always
Yes.
look
Yes.
at.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that I wasn't mentioned in anything that I've looked
Okay.
into.
Got it.
But yeah, I think it's more of a kind of a kidney concern. So because there's, that's where you're filtering all the fluids throughout your body. So
And it sounds like if you're in one of those categories, like kidneys, pregnant, high blood pressure, like proceed with caution, but like probably not a great tool. And if you are clear, like normal blood pressure, no, kidney issues, things, and not pregnant, to because what it was interesting, the words you used, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of how it's being marketed now as a daily supplement versus something that like I shouldn't take it. I have a high salt diet and I have fine, but not amazingly low blood pressure. And some of my workouts, I don't sweat. Some of my workouts, I do. If I run for 2.5 hours, I sweat. So someone like me would probably be fine to take it episodically during those like 60 plus minutes of, high
yeah,
intensity, high sweat workouts. But on my
yeah,
rest days or my lifting days, to just
absolutely
eat
not.
eat my normal diet and drink water. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
hard. It's hard in the marketing of these things because people hear like, I love Andrew Huberman, but it kind of makes it sound like, oh yeah, it's just like it's not a multivitamin.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. And it's not something that like there actually can be issues if you overconsume electrolytes, and in
Yeah.
particular issues with your heart. And so, even if you are healthy, if you're like drinking electrolyte drinks all day long, that's not ideal. Just stick with water.
Yeah.
That said, like if you're drinking, I don't know, Gatorade or something, which is also full of electrolytes, it doesn't mean that you're gonna, go into cardiac arrest and like
Right.
fall down dead or anything. It's not like that. It's just something that we should be mindful of and use as it should be used, rather than
Yeah.
just be consuming it mindlessly all the time, not really knowing like what it does or doesn't do for us. And I think there's also been some confusion around like it being performance enhancing. It does not enhance performance whatsoever. If anything, if you're, doing endurance related exercise or something like that, it can help to prevent muscle cramp.
Mhm.
But there's no actual like performance enhancing effect of electrolyte drinks.
not like creatine, for instance. And that's something that many people take it daily. It's even, nowadays you take that daily, you take it even on days that you don't work out. It benefits, it does benefit performance in terms of your strength and benefits endurance. Like I know runners who take it. And then there's all these other, that's like a whole nother thing, but all these like other fun new things like brain power and anti-dementia qualities and things like that. So
yeah, creatine's awesome. I would say that's probably one of the supplements I do recommend the most often, but it's also one of the most well-studied supplements out there.
It's like the only thing in my world, NASM, like the National Academy of Sports Medicine, that's where like most trainers get certified through, and they don't like anything. I mean, that's not true. That sounds bad, but they're like pretty like old school. And the only two things they like say, like 8 ounces of coffee and creatine are like good pre-workouts.
Yep. Yeah, and it's true, and it's definitely backed by the research. So
yeah. And there's lots of fun, new, exciting things that are like coming up to like more mainstream. Like I listened to the Whoop podcast, which is like my fitness tracker, and they did a whole episode on creatine, which was really fun. So maybe we can talk about that another time. But
yeah, I know. I'm like, now my brain's all thinking about creatine and all the fun stuff I've been hearing about too.
Yeah, it's excellent. It is excellent, and it is funny. Just from the strength perspective, it really does work. And it used to be you cycle. So you like take a bunch of it, you like preload it, and then you have to like take it off. And that can still be a way, but now you can also work with your doctor. Like the issue is after time, if you take a lot of creatine, one of your liver enzymes, I'm going to mess up. It's like a slight variation, like creatinine, I believe, or it looks written on your lab like creatine, but I believe they call it creatinine.
Creatinine, yeah.
And that can be, if you take creatine, yours over time, like without a break, it will just get high. And so this was like an interesting bit. Like mine was high, and I'm on I've been on various medicines, and my doctor had me take she said, all right, I want you to take a 2-month break from it, come back in, we'll test your labs again. And if your creatinine level is still high, like that's a problem. If not, we know it's coming from creatine and it's like artificially high. And so I did that, and she's like, yeah, now you can just take like now we know. Know. So it is interesting, like, and that's an example of like having to be smart and individualized about your own blood, your own heart, your own blood pressure, your own issues with what you take daily.
Yeah, and then, that is a good reminder too of like the disclaimer that I like to just add to pretty much everything I say. If you have questions about this stuff, go talk to your doctor. They are often a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. And you can go get a blood test. They test electrolytes when you get your blood tested done, when you get your blood testing done. So like, it's something that it doesn't have to be mysterious. You can go talk to your doctor, go get a blood test, have a conversation about, whether or not you're in one of these populations that needs to be concerned. And I would say more often than not, you're probably in the group that doesn't need to be taking electrolytes in most scenarios.
Save your money.
Yeah. It can get expensive too.
They can. I mean, it is a little bit ridiculous. It can feel ridiculous sometimes. So it's good to know that that's one that is more episodic in need if you need it at all, based off of how you exercise and sort of what your biomarkers are. So that's really cool. Again, I was kind of telling people, well, the worst case is you could waste your money. Like, man, you can waste your money on a lot of things, but it was really helpful to know like which people, like how they work out, kidney disease, prenatal, people with high blood pressure, how it's not just a potential waste of money. It could potentially be having an adverse effect on your body. So to be, super duper careful with that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, because I didn't want to spend my money on more shit I don't need. And I don't
Nobody
need
wants
any
that.
more. I don't need anything else that's going to make my blood pressure go up, because I like that where it is. So, well, thank you so much as always for taking the time. And I really, really appreciate it. And I know people like my friends and my clients really love hearing from you. So thanks again.
Yeah. Awesome. Always great to chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.